Hello. The first part of chapter 4 ended with Torito stopping breathing again right after he was treated by La Curandera, and with Roberto and his brothers crying, and Roberto thinking, no, not Roberto, Francisco thinking perhaps Doña Maria made him worse. And now we'll continue with the second part of chapter 4. And it says, Papá quickly picked up Torito, wrapped him in a blanket, and yelled, Vieja, vámonos al hospital. He and Mamá ran out and took off in the carcachita. Roberto, Trampita, and I stood there crying. I thought I would never see Torito again. Frightened and confused, I walked outside. It was pitch dark and quiet. I went behind our tent, knelt down on rocky ground, and prayed for Torito for a very long time, until my parents returned. As soon as I heard the carcachita, I got up from my knees and ran to the front of the tent to meet them. When I saw Mamá and Papa without Torito, I panicked. "Is he dead?" I cried out. "No, Panchito, calm down," Papa answered. "We left him at the hospital." "Is he going to die?" I stammered. "No, he isn't," Mamá snapped. "God won't let him. You'll see," she added in a harsh tone. Her face was flushed, and her dark eyes were full of tears. I was surprised and puzzled. Why would she be angry at me? That night I had trouble sleeping, thinking about Torito. Mamá and Papa did not sleep either. I heard Mamá sobbing every time I woke up, and saw Papa smoking one cigarette after another. Early the next morning, Mamá said she was going to drive Papa to work. I thought it was strange because Papa always took the car to go pick strawberries. Besides, it was only 5:30. Papa did not have to be at work until 7, and it only took a few minutes to get there. "I'll be right back," Mamá said, looking at Roberto and me. "Be sure to take care of Trampita." I followed my parents to the car, and as Mamá was about to get in, I asked, "Can we go see Torito when you get back?" Mamá closed the car door without answering and sped off. Roberto and I went back in the tent. We did not say a word to each other, but each of us knew what the other was thinking. We knelt side by side on the mattress in front of La Virgen de Guadalupe and prayed silently. I was worried and irritated by the time Mamá returned. It was around 11. "Where were you?" I asked angrily. "I want to go see Torito." "Only if God wills it," she said sadly, putting her arms around Roberto and me. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Torito is very sick," she replied. "He has a rare disease that may be catching. That's why you can't see him." "But you went to see him this morning, didn't you?" I responded, raising my voice. "That's why you took so long, right?" "Sí, mijo," she answered, "but they won't let children in to see him. You can see him when he comes home." "When is that?" Roberto and I asked at the same time. "Soon, probably," she answered hesitantly. I had a feeling Mamá was not telling all she knew. After preparing supper, Mamá went to pick up Papa from work. When they got home, Papa looked very upset and anxious. I waited for them to talk about Torito, but they did not say a word about him. And as soon as dinner was over, they left for the hospital. After Roberto and I cleaned the dishes, I went outside, behind our tent, and prayed on my knees again. But only for a little while. I hurried inside when I heard Doña Maria chanting next door. When Papa and Mamá returned from the hospital, Mamã's arms were empty. Roberto and I looked at each other in disappointment. "Torito is a little better, but we can't bring him home until tomorrow," she said, teary-eyed and with a faint smile. Then, taking a deep breath and looking at Roberto, Trampita, and me, she continued, "We have to pray to the Santo Niño de Atocha because—" "Yes," Papa interrupted, taking out his wallet and pulling out a tattered holy card. "Your Mamá and I have made a promise to El Santo Niño." Then, holding the card in the palm of his right hand and looking at it, he continued, "We'll pray to him every day for a whole year if Torito gets well." Papa then took a pin from a small tin box where Mamá kept her sewing things and pinned the card to the canvas wall above the mattress next to the picture of the Virgen de Guadalupe. On the holy card was a picture of the little Jesus of Atocha sitting on a high wooden chair. He wore sandals, a blue cloak, a short brown cape, and a brimmed hat to match. In his right hand he carried a basket, and in his left hand a wooden staff. We all knelt in front of the Santo Niño to pray. Mama always prayed to him whenever one of us got sick because she said the Holy Child Jesus took care of poor and sick people, especially children. The late hour and the repetition of the prayers made me sleepy. That night I dreamed about the Santo Niño de Atocha. I was behind our tent praying on my knees in front of the baby Jesus holy card. Suddenly the Santo Niño came alive. He stood up from his chair and floated in the air, carrying the basket. He glided to where I was and placed the basket at my feet and pointed to it. Out of the basket emerged hundreds of tiny white butterflies. They formed themselves into a pair of wings, lifting me and carrying me away over Tent City and sitting me down next to my Torito, who lay in the middle of a lush green alfalfa field. In the dream I awoke and looked at the prayer card. Torito was in it, sitting on the high chair, dressed as the Santo Niño de Atocha. The next morning, when I told Mama about my dream, she decided to make Torito an outfit just like the one the Santo Niño de Atocha was wearing in the picture prayer card. Instead of taking a nap after she made the lunches, she started sewing a clock using the fabric from one of her blue dresses. She finished it that evening, just in time to go get Torito from the hospital. Later that night, when Mama and Papa returned with Torito from the hospital, he was wearing the blue clock Mama had made him, but he did not look like the Santo Niño in the holy card. Torito was pale and skinny. He moaned when I tickled him. "Mama, is Torito still sick?" I asked. "Yes, mijo," she responded. "That's why we have to keep on praying." "But didn't the doctor take care of him?" Mama turned her back to me and did not respond. I looked at Papa, who was pacing up and down, wringing his hands. After a long moment of silence, he said, "Remember, we have to keep our promise and pray to El Santo Niño every day for a whole year." That night and every night for an entire year, we all prayed to El Santo Niño de Atocha as we followed the crop from place to place. During that time, Mama dressed Torito in the blue clock and only took it off when it needed to be washed. On August 17th, the day we completed the promise to El Santo Niño, we all gathered around Torito, who sat on Mama's lap. His chubby, rosy cheeks made him look like a cherub. "I have something to tell you," Mama said, teary-eyed, as she took off his cloak. When we took Torito to the hospital, the doctor told us my son would die because we had waited too long to take him there. He said it would take a miracle for him to live. I didn't want to believe him, she continued, gaining strength as she talked, but he was right. It took a miracle.